The Enid are an English prog band formed in Kent in 1973 and are still in existence. They have three distinctions to my mind. One of them is that they have had one of the most different lineups of any band that I know. Wikipedia lists 34 lineups. And given that they had an 8-year break in the middle, that's not quite one per active year, but it's not far off. We've also got 34 ex-members. Another one is that they have a fan base that has included punks, which is very unusual for anything that's labelled prog. And the third is they have a very unique approach to the music, or certainly in their early albums. They have released 21 studio albums. Hi, my name's Dan. So, this channel, almost all of the reviews on it are reviews of the 3,000 greatest albums of all time, according to a list at acclaimedmusic.com, and I'm working my way through from number 3,000 upwards. And now I've been doing it 2.5 years, and I'm nearly towards the end of the first 1,000, which is quite a rate. However, occasionally I step off that. I've given myself license to include about 10% more reviews that are of from other sources. And one of the series that I've got is what I call Hidden Gems. So these are albums that I think very few people have heard of and that are not kind of very much in the public eye, but are albums that I know and I really like. And this is one of those. So this is a hidden gem. This is the second album by the Enid, and I've heard it many times. So I picked it up in my school days, and it was so kind of, in my mid to late teens. And it was a speculative buy. I didn't know what it was like because I liked the cover. What I tended to do often was, I'd spend ages kind of flicking through the records in these vinyl record stores, and I'd get some particular covers would draw me in, and then I'd read the notes and try and work out what kind of music it might be from the notes. And I got this, and it's one of two albums of theirs that I got around that time. And I enjoyed both of them. I have done for many years. So actually, there are two versions of this album. So it was so this is the 1977 version, is the one that I have, and it's the one that I'm reviewing. There was another version which had the same name, but was released in 1983. And for contractual reasons, it was mostly re-recorded, and the tracks were all renamed and reordered. So there's a couple of differences in terms of what's contained on the albums as well. I had a bit of a look at that. So the clips that I'm going to play at the front and the back, which I always do, are actually taken from a remastered version, which is 2010, I believe. And it's not actually the version that I listened to for review, because the one that I listened to for review was my own rip isn't quite the right word, but my own recording from the vinyl that I had, and it's got lots of clicks in it. So I didn't want to. I wanted to use the one without the clicks. It does, because of the remastered version. It sounds slightly odd to my ears at times, this version. Anyway, enough of all these details about different versions. Let's get into the music. So this is instrumental. It's been lumped in with prog rock because I think, or in my opinion, because nobody really knew how to categorize them. I think kind of as a band and their attitude was maybe kind of in line with prog rock, but musically, I would describe this as being more classical than rock. And I feel like it's almost unique in terms of the approach that it's taken here. So there have been over the years, several attempts in different ways of bridging the gap between rock and classical music. This was particularly prominent in the late 60s through into through the 70s. And there are people like, who did stuff that was, it was definitely kind of rock music and using rock instruments, but it was kind of the grandiose feel of classical. So people like Mike Oldfield, ELO were particularly known for taking classical instruments, particularly string instruments, into stuff that was basically pop rock. There were several more prog bands that did that. So flutes, particularly, found their way into Canterbury scene prog. Sky were a British band that did a mixture of classical music in a more rock style, and Sky are probably the closest to this of any other band. What the Enid do is original music that, in terms of style and structure and the way the music is put together, feels much more like classical music to me, but mostly done with rock instruments. So they're using electronic keys and electric guitars. They do occasionally use a classical guitar and some other things, but they're quite a lot of the time the sounds that they're using is that sounds like a flute, but it's obviously a synth kind of things. And it's interleaving lines, its motifs, and its structures, and so it owes certainly in this album and the previous album owes a lot more to classical than to rock. There's some piano, there's some acoustic guitar, as I said. There's fluids, section changes, the speed up and slow downs. It's the sort of thing that you can imagine being conducted rather than kind of rocking out to a groove. Um, the track names give it kind of a theme from nursery rhymes and fairy tales. The entire second half is goes under the name "found." I've looked that up. I believe that well, there are several meanings of the word "found," but the one that I think is probably the relevant one here is the name of a character from Irish folklore, because that fits with the rest of the stuff. So, why do I love it? Why did I want to review it and put it on my channel? Because it's beautiful. It's kind of unique and unusual. It's exquisite. It's evocative. It's put together really nicely. And I have to say, although in retrospect I have uh, said that yes, it probably does just about fit under the banner of prog rock. At the time that I was listening to this, I would not have thought of this as prog rock, but in fact, at the time, there was a lot of things that I was listening to that I just wouldn't put a label on in the same way that we do now. And it just retrospectively found that a lot of things that I really liked turned out to be prog rock in the end when we started lumping them together and labeling them. Anyway, I'd love for, if this gives anybody the impetus to discover this album and to check it out for themselves, that'd be great. If you already know and are aware of this album, I'd love to know what you think of it. If you're coming to it new, again, I'd love to know what you think of it as you listen to it. And that's it from me for now.